It's interesting hearing him talking about this and the parallels that is happening with him and Christine and me and him. It's kind of disturbing because like some of the things that he's frustrated about with Christine, he did to me. Oh, he wants to work on it with Christine, but not me.
If people are just tired of trying and they don't want to work it out, then I need to know.
Hey friends, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It is Friday, August 11th, 2023, and I hope you are having a wonderful day. It's Friday. Yesterday in my comments, I did a video about Meri Brown and this fight that she had with Robyn, and someone in my comments said, you know, there's a lot of talk on YouTube that Meri could potentially sue Kody and Robyn for like coercion, for her moving to Arizona, for the fact that they took a lot of her money. Could she go back in time and sue for alimony? And, you know, could the divorce be coercion or fraud? And there's a lot we should talk about. And then there's also this idea that they have inflicted emotional pain onto her, and could she sue for that? And does she have cause? And would she file a lawsuit against Kody and Robyn in order to get her money back? Well, that's a good question, and I can't tell you the answer, but it's a good topic for this video because way back in January, there's a story that was posted by Radar Online with literally no follow-up, and then on In Touch posted that, you know, no one's considering suing anyone, so you have to sort of like think of it in that way. And I want to be very clear that on Friday, August 11th, no lawsuits have been filed by Meri against anyone in any of the states that she lives in, whether it's in Utah or in Arizona. And both states you can search in their search systems. Utah, you have to pay. Arizona is free, and there's nothing. And most of the cases are searchable. So their divorce case is also available if you want to look up in Nevada. And I actually have a copy of their divorce decree, which outlines what they waived and what they divided when they got divorced. So does Meri have grounds to file a lawsuit, and will she file a lawsuit? Well, let's dive into today's topic. Before we do, can you please do me a big favor and give this video a thumbs up? Also, please subscribe to my channel if you have not yet subscribed. Click on the bell if you'd like to get notified of any time I go live or new content loads. If you have something to say, make sure to say it and share this video with your friends. I am not an attorney, and so I am not providing legal advice, nor am I stating that I have any knowledge about the legal field. I will be referencing a website called Find Law when we talk about whether or not she has things that she should consider before suing, and then we'll dive into her actual like divorce decree and if she would actually have grounds to sue. So first off, the biggest issue for a lot of people is that people feel like Kody and Robyn were stealing money from the family and from Meri, and that they used Meri for years financially. And obviously she did work, and they obviously did take money from the family. But over, you know, the scope of the Sister Wives show, you've seen that in real time, they've all benefited financially from the show, and they've all lived in better homes than they had before the show was on the air. Now, in terms of her moving to Flagstaff and sort of this idea that she was fraudulently coerced to move there because Kody sort of dangled this carrot to Meri that he would get back together with her, that they were going to work on the relationship, and that Flagstaff was a new space. And then that never came to fruition. But on the show, he was saying things like, we need Meri for Coyote Pass to make it possible. We really need to talk to Meri because he needed her money. Well, okay, so as far as it goes with Meri, so did he manipulate her maybe under fraudulent purposes to move to Flagstaff? Maybe. I don't know if it's an actionable claim because they could also, you know, Kody always will be able to argue in any of this that it's a tenet of their faith and that they're practicing their religion, and that Meri was practicing her religion, and a lot of religious beliefs are unfortunately protected under the First Amendment. And if they can argue that it was part of their faith and that he was literally just exercising his right to to believe these things, and it was his faith that was telling him that he needed to go with all of these wives, he could say it was his First Amendment. It's horrible, but it's true. And Kody loves to use the Constitution and First Amendment rights. So I don't know if she would actually have a claim on that. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know. So fraud and coercion, I don't know if she could actually prove it. Kody's argument could be like freedom of speech, freedom of religion. We were practicing our religion. And Meri would have to determine if it's even worth it. So when they got divorced, their divorce decree from almost 10 years ago, it says that they had no community property that was going to be adjudicated. So they weren't going to get the courts involved with their home. And they didn't put any of their debts to be adjudicated by the courts either. But as a part of it, it says that they waived any claims to spousal support or alimony against the other. That was a huge part. So when they got divorced, signed by a judge in 2014, she agreed and he agreed that neither one of them would claim spousal support or alimony against the other. And here's the thing. I looked up in the state of in Nevada, a divorce is never actually considered closed. You can always go back to file into a divorce record if you want to, but because a judge signed off on this and this is something that they agreed to, I find it hard to believe that either one of them would go for those things. And it also says another thing that they agreed on, that each party waives the right to any and all inheritances which either party may now or in the future become entitled, and in right, interest, and community property ownership in the other's estates upon their prospective deaths. Neither one of them are going to get anything inherited from the other if they were to die. And if they inherited anything from someone else that died, neither one of them could get anything. So when Bonnie died, Meri actually closed out the estate for her mother. And court records show that Bonnie actually didn't have any money when she passed away. So there wasn't like an estate to divide. And that once Kody were to die or she were to die, neither one of them will go for inheritance from the other. So they've both agreed that they're not going to go for alimony, support, or inheritance from the other. Because their divorce is the way it is, it's unlikely that she's going to go back in time and ask for alimony and support, because honestly, she agreed to not do that almost 10 years ago. And then for the better part of those 10 years, they lived basically estranged. And Meri, for all intents and purposes, has had a very, I would say, equitable exchange in income, in that she has a home that she owns in Parowan, Utah. She's a business owner. She runs this B&B. She also has several businesses that she's very successful in. And one might argue that for the long time, she was actually making more money than Kody. Now, was she giving that money to Robyn and Kody? Probably so, because under their faith, Kody had access to all of their money. I think it would be difficult as well, because right now they also have things that are tied up in their property. So they both own property together in Flagstaff. They have Coyote Pass, where Meri is on the title with Kody. The property is owned free and clear. There's absolutely no loans, no mortgages on it. They purchased the property for $180,000. And unless and until they sell that, Meri won't, their equity is sort of in that property. They have to sell that, and then they would divide the assets, or to divide the equity from the sale and the proceeds of it between and amongst the party. Now, their property that they own together has 3 people on it: Janelle, Meri, and Kody. So the equity division of that property would go 3 ways. So they still have property in name. They also own businesses in name. And so they do have some legal issues that they need to sort out. One, that they're on businesses together. So they're on My Sister Wives Closet. There's a couple businesses that Janelle formed that have all of the children or have all of the adults listed. And then she's also on Kody Brown Entertainment, which has become expired, but it was their LLC that they were using for payment for the show. Do they have things that they need to divide? Yes. According to Find Law, when they say, does someone have a good case? What are, things someone should consider if they were going to file? So say Meri was thinking, I'm going to file. Things that you would want to consider is, do you have a good case? Do you have a cause of action to support your claim? So you need to have something that you can verifiably prove. In order for her to be able to prove like intentional infliction of emotional distress and all of that, there's a big barrier she has to go over. She also has to be able to show that what they did to her exceeded what the average person would go through. She also would have to prove through like different psychological evaluations that that what he did to her is what caused what happened to her and the distress that she has. So there's that aspect. And then another thing the fine law would recommend is that, you know, making a demand to try to settle disputes before you go into the court of law. So trying to work together before you before you actually file a lawsuit, trying to settle by compromise prior to a lawsuit. So can she and Kody come to an agreement about the property? Can they come to an agreement about the equitable division of assets now that they've split? But again, when they split back in 2014, she and he both agreed no alimony, no community property, nothing. And they haven't owned, beyond the property that they own in Flagstaff, they don't have any other assets that they own together. And then again, she's got her names on a few businesses. But she owns the property in Parowan free and clear, and he has nothing to do with that. Another thing that she would need to consider is, would she be able to collect a judgment if she wins? So say she were to sue him, and knowing what we know now about Kody's financial situation and the probability that he doesn't have a lot of money, would it even be worth it for her to sue? Could she theoretically end up spending hundreds of thousands of dollars? Because that's what it costs. Lawsuits cost a lot of money, and they don't always have a lot of wins because it can take years to get it through the court system. It could take longer. You could expect, if you're going to go into federal court, to spend $5,000 to $10,000 a month, maybe more, maybe less on average. So if a lawsuit takes 2 years, she could spend over $200,000. And is it worth it to spend $200,000 if she's seeking a judgment of $50,000? Maybe not. And does Kody have the money to pay that? Maybe not. She would have to think about, is she within the statute of limitations? She would have to think about, does she have the time, the money, the resources? Can she pay for the lawyers? Could she go to small claims? There's a lot of things that you should think about, and she would have to think about if she were going to sue Kody. And it's very stressful to sue someone. Lawsuits are probably the last resort that I think anyone should want to go through. And honestly, I've been through several myself, and every single one thus far has not gone to trial. They've been dismissed or settled, and no claim, like literally no one's ever won a judgment against me, and I've never admitted to doing anything wrong. And all it's done is wasted time and resources. And you have to spend a lot of time and a lot of energy, and you have to have a lot of money. And so Meri would have to decide, is she willing to spend the money to sue Kody for a small amount of money? Is she willing to deal with the legal system? Does she have the emotional capacity to do that? Is there another way for her to mediate the situation without going to court? And does she have the capacity, the money to spend on a lawsuit and say she even goes all the way through this and then a judgment is awarded, could he even pay? Maybe, maybe not, because one thing Kody could do, and it's a very easy way out of a lawsuit, is if Kody doesn't want to deal with a lawsuit, he could immediately file for bankruptcy. If she were to sue him, he could file bankruptcy, and then any claims and any money that he has could go towards a judgment, but then it precludes him from any liabilities of that lawsuit. He also would have to get rid of assets, and his estate would have to liquidate whatever he has to pay off his creditors, and she could file a claim against his estate and his trust, but he could file for bankruptcy and then get out of it pretty quickly, and she gets nothing of it. So I don't think Kody has a lot of money for her to go after. I don't think it would be worth it personally. She's already agreed to 9 years ago that she wouldn't go for alimony, wouldn't go for wouldn't go for any sort of spousal support, and that she wouldn't go after his inheritances, which means if she were to sue Kody, he could also be vindictive and file a countersuit against her. And that's also something she would have to consider. So maybe he could follow up and he's a narcissist, by saying that she was emotionally distressing him. She inflicted pain onto him. And then it's like a war of, okay, so you're going to sue me, I'm going to sue you. And then it goes nowhere. And then the only people that win are the lawyers. I just can't in any world see that Meri would go this route, because I think that at this point in time, as much as we all feel badly for her, the best revenge for her, in my opinion, would be to move forward in a healthy way, away from Kody and Robyn. And like, I would go the criminal route if she had any criminal claims. Like, if she could prove fraud, like say she could prove through documents that he was committing bank fraud or tax fraud or wire fraud. That's the route I would go versus going civilly. Like, if you want to hold someone accountable, file a lot, like file a police report, go to the FBI. Like, that's the route I would go personally. Now, it might not result in any charges, but if she knows and is privy to the fact that he might be doing these things, say she knows that he committed bankruptcy fraud, or say she knows that he hasn't paid his taxes, or whatever it is, she could file a tip with the FBI. Any of them could, theoretically. And polygamists like Kody, they're known to scam, they're known to defraud, so it could happen. I would personally hope at some point someone did that, but I don't know that that will happen. And I also can't see Meri wanting to go through the pain and agony of going into a lawsuit with Kody and Robyn. Do I think she should like do it? Do I think she has a right to do it? I don't know. Would it be great to see them lose everything? Yes, of course. I personally think it would be more, knowing what I know about polygamy, knowing what I know about the men in polygamy, knowing about the crimes that happen in polygamy, I think it would be more rewarding for me not to see him lose it all financially, which he eventually will anyway, but to see him actually in prison. That would be my perfect scenario for him, but that's unlikely to happen either. So that's my thoughts with this. Will Meri file a lawsuit? Maybe, probably not. Is it worth it? Probably not. And will she find another way to resolve the issue? Probably. And unfortunately, because of the way that their divorce was filed and agreed upon, she probably would have no grounds, unfortunately. So I would love to see them take them for everything they're worth, but I actually think that Kody and Robyn will end up broke all on their own without anyone having to sue them. Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Bye, guys.